Number 4, Mr. Habedi, Habedi, who also testified about events at the house. 5, Mr. Nkululeko Chauke, he testified about events at the club and en route, and those which occurred en route from the club to the home. Then there was Dr. Tandima Hulu, Mahuluhulu, who compiled the post-mortem report. Then there was Mrs. Agatha Pearl Habedi, who testified about a WhatsApp message which was sent on her cell phone. Then there was Mr. Nhlanhla Junior Sibisi, SIBISI, who testified about the emergency medical services. Then there was number 9, Mr. Nuku Brian Manaka, MANAKA, also testifying about the EMS, that is emergency medical services. Then there was Miss Masiro Tsele, TSELE, and she testified about events at the club and en route from the club homewards. Then lastly, the counsel for the state called Constable Sila Shedrack Malaka, MALAKA, who was the investigating officer in this case. I deal with witnesses for the defense now. Counsel for the defense called the following witnesses. The first was Miss Sindisiwe Precious Manele. The second was Mr. Kumbulani Ngube, NCUBE. Then thirdly, there was Warrant Officer Maripa Paul Monene, MONENE. Then there was Constable Godfrey Mulovezi, MULOVHEDZI. Then there was Dr. Sipo Michael Lukozi, LUKHOZI. And the last witness for the defense was Madam Laetitia Vena, VENA. Evidence for the state is the next heading. That is heading number 9. Beg your pardon, just a minute. Where's the book? No, I don't think it will be. The evidence of the state and that of the defense is contained in what we call the bench book, which my clerk has left in my office, and it's got to be here. I'm going to go through this evidence, and it's going to be a lengthy exercise. Just bear with us. He'll bring it now. I'm going to go through the evidence of each witness for the sake of completeness and to remind ourselves as to who said what about this case. We will have that book in a moment. The court will adjourn for 2 minutes. Now, this is the bench book which contains my notes on the testimony of each witness, and I'm going to go through such testimony, as I said, for the sake of completeness. Ne? Right. The first witness for the state then, I said it was Luanda Sulupa. And he declared under oath in English as follows, in the first person. He said, I am 24 years of age. The deceased was my cousin, but I took him as my brother because we grew up living together. During March 2015, I was staying at number 78 3rd Avenue in Alexandra. I knew the accused. She was my brother's girlfriend. I heard of her in 2009, and I'm not sure whether they were by then dating or not. The deceased ran a shop and was a rapper. His stage name was Flabba, and his group's name was Squatter Camp. On Sunday, the 8th of March 2015, in the evening, the accused went with the deceased to the Sands, a club called the Sands. It is a venue that does events during the day and at night. On the evening in question, the deceased was supposed to perform there. The accused was with the deceased that evening. When I saw them again, I saw the deceased I saw the accused and the deceased lying on the floor. In the morning of the 9th, that was in the morning of the 9th of March 2015, at about 1 a.m. I was in the house, in the bedroom, that is at number 78 3rd Avenue in Alexandra. Exhibit C was displayed to this witness, and he said the photos number 1 and 2 of Exhibit C depict the house, the said house, that is number 78 3rd Avenue, Alexandra. There's a driveway in photo number 2 leading to the back. The house with a dish on top is where myself, Luanda, Seang, and Mpo lived, and the brown house I repeat, the house with a dish on top is where myself, Luanda, Seang, and Mpo lived, and the brown house Nari and his wife lived therein. The deceased lived in the house with a dish on photo number 2. Where the van is parked is deceased's shop, and the gate on the left side leads to the house with a dish. Photo number 3 depicts the gate through which the car goes in, and the small gate is not visible in the picture. Photo number 4 is the entrance door to the house where we lived. On the far left-hand side is the deceased bedroom window near a chair. Outside the door in photo number 4 is an area for relaxation. If one goes through the door, one gets into the lounge where there is a TV and a couch. Photo number 5 depicts the deceased bedroom door, and the photograph is on the entrance hall. The dark object is the plasma disc, the plasma television. It is in the lounge. Photo number 5, the front door would be after the plasma. On the right hand side would be a wardrobe, my bedroom door. After that, it is Seang's bedroom. There is no closed kitchen in photo number 5. If you go to the kitchen, it is beyond the second lounge. At 1 a.m. that morning, I was in my bedroom, still awake at that stage. Mpo and Tapelo were in the relaxation area. At 1 a.m., I heard the gate open. Someone walked into the deceased bedroom. I didn't know who it was. He closed the bedroom door and locked it. The key locks from outside only, and it has a shooter. The bedroom door was slammed. I put the CD on pause and heard deceased calling the accused name. He called her Cindy, and he was saying, "Cindy, Cindy, open." There was no reaction from the accused. I heard deceased knock on the bedroom window in photo number 4. I then heard the bedroom door unlock. The deceased went into the bedroom, locked the door, and I heard an argument between the deceased and the accused. I heard the deceased saying the accused must not lock him outside his own house. The argument went on for about 30 minutes. The accused then said she pays her own bills and cannot be told what to do and what not to do. I then heard the accused mentioning deceased ex-girlfriend's names, Mpo and Kia. After some argument, I heard the deceased saying accused can leave. The door opened. I heard something like a bag being dropped on the floor below the switch. I then took out my sneakers and put them on. Someone then closed the deceased bedroom door. I walked out of my bedroom and knocked at deceased bedroom. While knocking, I could hear the deceased arguing with the accused. I then walked outside to the relaxation area and found Mpo and Tapelo. I then asked Mpo what is happening, and he said he doesn't know, but he saw the accused walk into the house and the deceased sat outside in the relaxation area singing. Deceased then said he is going to send out something with the accused and would come back to Mpo and Tapelo later. I didn't spend 5 minutes outside. I told Mpo I'm going to knock again. I got back into the house and passed the plasma in photo number 5, and the accused came out running and asked for help from me while crying. She said, "I stabbed your brother by mistake." I walked in and found the deceased on the floor in the bedroom. The deceased was lying face up. He had his sneakers on, no top, and I could see blood coming out from his chest. I felt his pulse. It was beating, and I tried to give him CPR, and he started snoring. The deceased was on her cell phone talking to someone I don't know. Accused joined me to give CPR, saying, "I love you. It is a mistake." I then walked out of the deceased bedroom and knocked on Tsepang's bedroom door because I wanted him to help me to take the deceased to hospital. Tsepang asked me, and I asked what's happening, and I said they stabbed our brother, and and saw the accused lying on her knees, trying to talk to the deceased while crying. I said to Seang, let's take him with the ambulance to hospital, but Seang suggested we call an ambulance because we might damage the deceased further. We called the ambulance and it took about 30 minutes to come. Before the ambulance came, I reversed the van right out at the gate. Photo number 2 shows how I parked the van. Seang then helped me put the deceased on the duvet. I then drove the van to the ambulance offices 5 streets away, and I drove back home and I parked the van. The ambulance people parked behind me. After coming later, when the paramedics came, they said the deceased is dead and they called the cops. I didn't see the accused or what she did. When the accused came out screaming, she was wearing a white vest and a short-sleeved white vest and a short, that is a bikini. The accused had blood on her right hand and splatters on the left. The accused did not have bruises or injuries on her face. She did not complain of any injuries. Photo number 6 is the deceased bedroom. Also photos number 7 and 8. There was a hole on the chest of the deceased. I saw a bread knife or a kitchen knife. It was lying between the foot of the bed and the blue and white bag. It was later moved to the right hand side of the speaker. Photo number 15 and 16 recognized by the witness, and he identified the steak knife used in the crime, which is marked A. It is usually kept in the kitchen with other knives. I went to the kitchen to drink water and I asked the guys if they knew this knife, and Mpo said accused and deceased brought McDonald's food when they came back from the sands. None of us had McDonald's that evening, but on the 8th of March we had chicken licken, and I had nothing of a physical altercation between the accused and the deceased. Now, this witness then further testified that sometime during the week, the police came and took me to the police station, to Major Zwane, to give a statement. Everything was still fresh in my memory when I was taken by the police for a statement. After the statement, I signed it because I told them of everything what happened that night. I did not read the statement. That is Exhibit A9. That is my signature on it, and I recognize the statement as the one I made. I also made another statement which is part of the initial one. This witness was subjected to lengthy cross-examination by counsel for the accused, but I shall not go into the cross-examination because it did not yield anything significant about what happened in the bedroom itself. The next witness was Pomari, who testified in Zulu about the events at number 78 3rd Avenue in Alexander, but not about the events in the bedroom itself. He said in the first person, I'm 26 years old and the deceased was my brother. I know the accused before court. I started seeing her in 2012. She was in a love relationship with the deceased. I'm not sure when they started with their relationship. The accused resided in Ireland. I don't know when she went to Ireland. She used to come once a year to South Africa. She came sometime in December 2014. She was between two places. Her home is in Kempton Park and the deceased place. The deceased was previously married and subsequently divorced. There were 2 children from the previous marriage. He had a daughter with a certain woman called Karabo. She was the deceased ex-girlfriend. I do not know if the deceased had any other girlfriends. On Sunday, the 8th of March 2015, I saw them before the accused and the deceased left for the sands. Again, I saw him on Monday, the 9th of March 2015, at past 1, that is between 1 and 2 in the morning. He was happy. I was home at 78 3rd Avenue, Alexander. I was just outside the house. That is at photo number 4, which depicts where he was. I was on the left-hand side of the window in this photo. I was with a friend, Tapoo, and we were listening to music. The accused walked in first. She just greeted us. Hi, guys. After that, she walked into the house. After 5 minutes, my brother, the deceased, walked in. He came straight to us, greeted us. The music was on. One of his songs was playing. He said him and the accused were fighting. I asked, what for? He said, let me speak to the accused first and I'll tell you when I come back. He then went into the house. He was happy. You couldn't say they were fighting. He went to his mom only to find that it is locked. He went to his room only to find that it is locked. He came back to tell us so within less than 5 minutes. He then knocked at the window that's on photo 4 and came back to us and lit a cigarette, smoked and kept on singing. When he knocked at the window, he said, baby, please open up for me. He was talking to the accused. There was no reaction from inside the room. It took about 10 minutes for him to be with us. He heard a click sound from the door's lock and he went running. There was much argument in the room, both of them shouting at each other. They were arguing about bills. Who has to do the paying for the bills? The deceased said to accuse that she must leave. The argument took about 30 to 45 minutes. It was not serious. That's how I took it, and I didn't think of going to intervene. The argument ended when the deceased said, this bitch has just stabbed me, and close quote. I don't know who he was telling that. We then heard the accused calling, saying, Luanda, Tsepang, Mpo, please help me. Tsepang and Luanda were sleeping, so I was chilling with Tapelo. Luanda said my brother was stabbed. I went into my brother's bedroom. When I entered the bedroom, the deceased was lying on the floor helplessly. Luanda and Cindy, that is the accused, and Tapelo were doing the CPR on the deceased. The deceased had a stab wound on the left-hand side of the upper chest. A knife was lying onto the floor. It was a kitchen knife with a black handle. It was serrated. The knife was between the accused crying and the deceased. Photos number 7 and 8 depict my brother's room. The knife was between the black bag and the blue bag in photos 8, marked with an X. The accused, this was the end of the evidence by Mpho Motswari. You could hear that he was testifying where he was seated outside chilling, and that he saw both accused and the deceased move into the bedroom, even though they didn't move in at the same time. The accused moved in first, then the deceased knocked and said, "Baby, please open for me." And when there was a click at the door, he went running, and the door was opened. Then they started arguing for about 30 to 45 minutes again. So he did not witness the actual happenings in the bedroom itself. So his cross-examination did not yield anything significant as far as the moment of the stabbing inside the bedroom. Next witness was Tapelo Sillo, and he declared in Zulu as follows. First person, he said, "I am 28 years old. I'm friends with the younger brother of the deceased Tsepang for over 10 years. I knew the deceased as well as the accused. I knew her to be a girlfriend of the deceased Nkululeko. On Sunday, the 8th of March 2015, I was at Tsepang's place at 78 3rd Avenue, Alexander. In the early morning of Monday, the 9th of March 2015, I was at Tsepang's place sitting in the carport. I was with Mpho Tsepang. Tsepang was in the bedroom. We were sitting in the carport listening to some of the deceased songs. At some stage, the accused was the first to arrive while we were in the carport. She came in, greeted, and walked into the house. She just said, "Hi guys," in a waving gesture, and she passed. She went into the deceased bedroom because the accused at some stage locked him outside. I did not see what happened inside the house. The deceased also arrived after a few minutes, that is under 5 minutes time. When he arrived at the carport, he said the accused was angry with him and he would come back to explain to us why accused was angry with him. I am unable to estimate how long the deceased took to be with us. He then entered the house and went to his room where he knocked. His bedroom door was not opened. After he knocked and the door was not opened, he came back to us in the carport. He started knocking at the window. If I remember correctly, he said that the accused was angry with him because he spoke to a certain lady. While he was knocking, the light went on. We then heard the sound of the door being opened. The witness then illustrated what he was saying about referring to the court's door, which was closed. The deceased then went into the house. During the process of him explaining what transpired between him and the accused, he was singing. He said the accused saw him speaking to a certain lady and she got angry. I can't remember how long he was with us after knocking at the window. When the door was opened, he went into the room. In his room, I heard arguments between the accused and the deceased. I did not hear what they were saying. It lasted about 20, just over 20 minutes. It was a verbal argument. I don't recall any sounds from objects. I don't know how the argument ended. We were listening to music and it became quiet when the music stopped. While it was quiet, I heard the deceased say, "This bitch just stabbed me." It was the deceased's voice saying so. It was then quiet for a while. Even at that stage, I was conversing with Mpo. We asked ourselves what was really going on. After that, accused screamed that Luanda and Seang should come and help her. She said, "Luanda, please help me. Seang, please help me." Close quote. I was then outside, but I can assume that she was at the deceased's bedroom door. At that stage, I did not know what was happening. When I heard Luanda's door and Seang's door being opened, I went to deceased's bedroom. In the deceased's bedroom, I found Luanda, Seang, and the deceased lying on the floor. The accused was trying to resuscitate the deceased, begging him to come back to life. The deceased was lying in front of the wardrobe, but more to the side of it. He lay facing up. He lay there with his mouth open without moving. There was blood on the left-hand side of his chest. His injury was on the left-hand side of his chest. It was not a big wound, but it was bleeding. I then saw a black steak knife with a silver steel blade with blood on it. It was not smooth. A forensic plastic bag containing a knife was then displayed to this witness, and he recognized the knife, and the knife was handed in as Exhibit 1 after he had confirmed that that is the knife. I don't know how long it remained in the I don't know how long I remained in the bedroom. The knife was towards the deceased's feet. The deceased was dead on a black jean. The deceased was clad in a black jean, a pair of socks. The jean was not pulled up to his waist. It was above his knees. He did not have a top on. I don't know what happened to his top. The accused was dressed in a boxer short, and I think it was purple in color. It was a sleeveless vest. I don't remember seeing injuries on the accused. If she were stabbed, I would see blood from the wound, he testified. I only saw her and herself. We were in deceased's room and the police were present. There was a glass with a silver trim on top. After she had cut herself on both wrists with the glass, the police handcuffed her as she was injuring herself, and the paramedics bandaged where she had cut herself. I cannot tell whether the accused was in her sober senses. I can't tell whether the deceased was under the influence of liquor or not. At the stage when deceased said, "This bitch has stabbed me," there was no cry from the accused. Only when she called out Seang's name and that of Luanda to come and help her did I hear her scream. When she came in while we were in the carport, she had a McDonald's packet. I later did not see what happened to the food packet. During the time when the accused was doing a CPR on the deceased, she seemed remorseful in that she pleaded with the deceased to come back to life. I also then tried to do CPR on the deceased because the deceased was not performing it properly as she was crying. Because the accused was not performing it properly as she was crying. After the police arrival, the accused was now swearing the deceased was now swearing at the deceased wife, that is Mpho Habedi. She was saying, "I don't understand what you are doing here since you are going through a divorce." The manner which the accused was behaving was peculiar because 1 minute she was remorseful, but later she behaved as if she was possessed, and it was decided that she be placed in a police van. Mpho Habedi arrived on the scene after the police had arrived. The accused had suddenly changed from remorsefulness to extreme anger. She was swearing and raising her voice. Now, that concluded the evidence of the third witness, Tapoo, and you will see that he too does not know what happened inside the bedroom when the accused stabbed the deceased. So his cross-examination does not help the court in knowing what actually happened in the bedroom, as he was talking about things that happened outside the bedroom. The next witness was Habedi, and who declared in English as follows in the first person: "I am 28 years old. The deceased was my brother. We have the same mother and father. On Sunday, the 8th of March 2015, I was at 78 3rd Avenue, Alexandra. It was at about 2 to 3 p.m. He was about to take a bath. He had a cut on of his hair. He went to sleep in my room at 78 3rd Avenue. I went to sleep in my room at 78 3rd Avenue. I was with my girlfriend in Seang. I was awakened early on Monday morning at about 1 or between 1 and 2 a.m. I was awakened by my brother Luanda. He told me that my brother got injured. I got dressed, and when I went out, he said deceased was in his room. I went in and saw him on the floor. Photo number 5 depicts my brother's door. My bedroom is on the right-hand side. Down the passage, I saw my brother on the floor. My bedroom is on the right-hand side, down the passage. I saw my brother on the floor. Accused was crying, saying to the deceased, "I love you," that she did not mean to do it. I asked her what happened, and she said she stabbed the deceased on the chest. I took my brother's red shirt on the floor and pressed it against the wound. By that time, it was myself, Luanda, and Seang, my girlfriend, came in later. I then saw a steak knife with a black handle and 3 silver pins holding the handle. It was lying close to my brother's legs. The witness marked with an X in photo number 8 between the speaker and the deceased was covered with a duvet. The accused tried to do CPR on the deceased. Tapoo also tried to do CPR. I left the scene to make calls. I phoned paramedics, Mam Tiny next door, and Mamanare Habedi. Upon my return to the scene, I found the accused still crying, and I went out again to the paramedics. I showed the paramedics the deceased after leading them into the bedroom. After they came out, they confirmed my brother was dead. I went with them to the gate. There was a short policeman who said accused had cut herself. I was outside by that time. I came in again just to check what was going on, and the accused was handcuffed, and paramedics bandaged the accused's hands, and that is when I left again. The accused had shorts and a white vest on. It was a sleeveless vest. I only saw blood on accused's hands. I did not see any blood on her vest. I did recognize the knife. It was my mother's knife. It was normally kept in the kitchen. I don't know how the knife came to be in the bedroom that evening. I did not see any person take away food in deceased's bedroom. I did not see any McDonald's in the lounge area. I saw McDonald's in the fridge when the sun was out. Now you'll see that Seang Habedi, the kid brother to the deceased, was in and out of the house itself, calling paramedics and so forth. So his cross-examination did not yield anything significant to help the court to arrive at a verdict as to what happened at the moment of the attack. So I shall not deal with his cross-examination. The fifth witness was Nkululeko Chauke, and he declared in English as follows. He said, I'm 31 years old, currently unemployed. The deceased was a friend. We knew each other for about 13 years. I know the accused before the court for about 8 to 9 years. The deceased had a very good relationship with the accused. I would go out with them every second week or so. On Sunday, the 8th of March, 2015, we went out to a club called the Sands in Sandton. We arrived at the club at approximately 5:30 p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. I was picked up by the deceased and the accused. I was with my girlfriend Masa. They were both in a happy mood, looking forward to going out. At the club, we took our seats, sat down, chatted. People came to greet us, and later on it became chilly, and we moved to a more covered part of the club. The host gave us a bottle of vodka, and we danced, had fun, and people greeting us. Peter Lynch, the manager of Squatter Camp, came to greet us. His girlfriend told us where other members of the Squatter Camp were seated. We didn't go. She spoke to the deceased a little bit and left. The accused was sulking at the time and said the deceased is flirting with other women. He told her how could he flirt with Peter Lynch's girlfriend. The host's girlfriend, Habedi, came, gave me a hug, and the deceased too. She said she had not seen me in a long time. I said that I noticed she had put on a bit of weight, and she responded by dancing and saying she is fresh now, and she touched her back, the back of her thigh. We laughed it off, and she spoke to deceased for not more than 2 minutes and poured herself a glass of vodka. That is Habedi. The accused got a bit irritated. I noticed this on her facial expression. When Kia poured herself vodka, I made the remark that her boyfriend JR gave us the vodka bottle. We laughed it off and she went away. The deceased and the accused sat down and talked about him flirting with an ex-girlfriend, Habedi. Accused was quite upset and shouting at the deceased, saying, how could he disrespect her like that and flirt with a girl right in front of her? The deceased said Kia is an ex-girlfriend, and how could he flirt with her because her boyfriend who is a friend is JR. The argument did not last long. It was around 11 p.m. before the performance by the deceased. It was about 15 minutes performance. After the performance, it seemed like everything was okay until we decided to leave after midnight. The deceased and accused did dance together. The deceased and the accused did dance together. We then decided to leave the club. The accused and my girlfriend walked ahead, and at the entrance we could see them speaking to 2 men while we were saying goodbye to everybody. When we joined them, one of the guys made an unpleasant remark and repeated it, saying, and he was referring to the deceased, we superstars think that we can always take their girls away. We laughed it off and went to the parking lot. At the parking lot, the accused and the deceased were arguing. The accused saying, why is it okay to flirt with other women, and when I am talking to guys, we have to leave? You can't tell me what to do because you don't pay my bills, close quote. The deceased replied shortly by saying, how, Cindy, how could you talk to me like that in the presence of other people? This argument lasted for about 15 minutes. The accused was quite upset because she was shouting. The deceased was irritated as well. It was just a verbal argument. They were walking in front of my girlfriend and I. The deceased and the accused sat down on the pavement at the corner, and I went to go and fetch the car while the accused and the deceased were smoking. The car was about 30 to 50 meters away. I picked them up with a car. That is a caravel car belonging to the deceased. The mood between the accused and the deceased was tense, and we went to McDonald's, and I took orders at McDonald's, and when I asked the deceased whether he wanted anything. He said no, he has lost his appetite. After buying food, I drove myself home, got out of the car of the deceased and left. The deceased then got behind the steering wheel and drove away. It was slightly after 1 a.m. When the deceased declined the McDonald's food, the accused said, and I quote, "Don't think I'm going to give you my food," close quote. And the deceased said, "Eish, now we are Nishana. You two are stingy," in English. The accused then said, "You are used to your whores giving you what you want," close quote. The drive took about 15 minutes. Masego and accused were sitting behind us. The deceased then said, "How many times must I tell you that nothing is happening between me and those girls? You were also wrong by talking to me like that. Stop being stubborn, please." After I was dropped off at my house, that was the last time I saw the deceased alive. We had not finished the whole vodka bottle. That is, the deceased and I were tipsy, and accused and Masego were both drunk, because the accused was stumbling when she walked to the car, and Masego, I had to carry her into my house. I know that after an hour or so that we had arrived at the sands, the deceased and the accused with some other guys smoked a joint of marijuana. The deceased and the accused smoked a joint of marijuana. On the way back, they did not smoke anything. The accused was wearing some purple vest with floral long pants on the night in question. Now, it's quite obvious that Mr. Chauke was very close to this couple, the deceased and the accused, and he was in the company of accused and deceased in the caravel, and they went to the sands together and they enjoyed themselves. And he mentioned what he heard there, and they dropped him off at his place together with his girlfriend Masego, and they left for home. Now, that is his evidence, and still it doesn't tell us about the moment of conflict when they were stabbing in the bedroom. It's what happened outside. The court is going to adjourn for tea now. As I said, this part of the judgment is very lengthy because I decided to spell out in the words of the witnesses what they said to the court and what the court heard them saying. So please bear with me. We are now to start with the sixth state witness, Dr. Mahuluhulu, and we'll take it from there when we come back from tea. The court adjourns for tea.
All right. Olha que
I got confused.
Yeah.
The next minute.
I'm fine with
15, what is that?
33 minutes. The judge is sitting with so maybe there's judges there, the new judges there. That's why it was actually and then maybe 2 days.
I'm busy reading into the record the testimony of each one of the witnesses. The sixth state witness was Dr. Thandi Mahuluhulu, and she declared in English as follows. She said, "My qualifications are MBCHB. And she's got a diploma in forensic pathology of the College of Medicine of South Africa. She's also employed by the Gauteng Health Department as a specialist in forensic pathology. And she testified as follows. She said, "I conducted the post-mortem on the deceased in this case. Exhibit B was referred to and displayed to the witness, and she recognized it as a report which she wrote. A stab wound, she started describing the wounds. A stab wound is a layman's term for a penetrating incised wound. It is a wound that is deeper than it is wide. A cut, also known as an incised wound, is a wound that is wider than it is deeper. In paragraphs 4.1 and paragraphs 5, she noted that there is inferolateral abraded margins. This means the lower and the outer aspects of the wound. The most superficial part of the skin has been removed, most likely from the impact of the handle of the knife which was used. In Exhibit 1 was referred to, and she said it is possible that those wounds were inflicted by that knife. It was after Exhibit 1 had been displayed to her, which is the knife. So she confirmed that though it is possible that those wounds were inflicted by that knife, it is also possible that the handle of the knife caused the abradement, consistent with a considerable force, she said. This is consistent with a considerable force. It is very difficult to estimate the depth of the wound in a cavity. It could be 10 centimeters. This is an estimate taking into consideration the layers it has to go through. I cannot confirm the position of the perpetrator. All I can confirm is the wound, that it was from left to right. No other injuries were noted on the deceased. It is a wound that is along the midline above the belly button. A 1.5 centimeter cut, which is perpendicular above the belly button. Anything less than the width, meaning the depth is less than 1.5. A sharp object puncture wound, e.g., when as a doctor I put a needle into the flesh of a patient. A stab wound is one that is penetrating and the width is smaller than the depth. A puncture wound is smaller, 2 centimeters, but it is deep. Depth greater than the width. If the track enters the body, it goes upwards. It is difficult to describe, but most possibly it goes towards the left. So she was testifying on technicalities of medicine and what she found. But what emerges from her testimony, which is worth noting, is that she says a considerable force must have caused the wound which was sustained by the deceased. Then the next witness was Agatha Pearl Habedi, who declared in Sutu as follows. She said, "I'm 60 years old. The deceased was my firstborn son. He was born on the 17th of October 1977. I know the accused. She was the deceased's girlfriend. I'm not sure when their relationship started, but it must have been over a year. The deceased used to talk about her. It was a serious relationship from what I could tell. On the 9th of January, there was, as a result of WhatsApp messages between the deceased and myself. The deceased forwarded a WhatsApp message to me from the accused. From reading this message, one could tell that there was trouble in their relationship because the accused had found some WhatsApp messages on deceased's phone. I received the WhatsApp message from deceased on my tablet, which I have here with this message and this message is still there. Then the witness opened the message of the tablet and says, it was at 21 hours on the 9th of January 2015, and the witness read the message out into the record. And I quote, the message reads, I don't even know why I trusted your cheating ass in any way. After all, you cheated on Lesego's mom with me and God knows who else. You make me sick. I'll call Tembela to come and get my stuff from your two-timing ass. I really hope those whores make you happy and have fun telling your daughters, have fun on your telling your daughters how you fucking cheated on a woman that was nothing but nice to all your family. I'm gonna go as far as I'm gonna go for my blood tests tomorrow morning. You better pray you didn't give me anything. Then close quote. This was the message which she read out, the WhatsApp message. And she went on to say, I tried to contact the accused about this incident the following day on the 10th of January 2015. The deceased asked me to speak with her to resolve the quarrel they were having. I did speak to the accused briefly. The first thing to her was, oh, my child, are you trying to kill me? This is what she said to the accused. She, close quote, she knew the kind of relationship I had with the deceased, and I was just trying to discuss with her that their quarrel is affecting me in such a way that it could kill me as the mother of the deceased. At that particular time, I could hear she was quite sleepy, and I suggested I would talk to her later when she's not asleep. We did speak some time later. I was not sure if I called her or she called me. She did indicate that since she's going to Cape Town for 2 weeks and would see me upon her return. There was no meeting between she and I after 2 weeks. I cannot find words to describe the death of the deceased, how the death of the deceased affected the family. The deceased's career was at a stage where it had started to blossom. He had just released a single track and was involved in a number of collaborations with other artists. So it is quite clear from the evidence of this witness, that is the mother of the deceased, that two things, that she received this message, and secondly, she also testified about how the death of the deceased affected her family. So she didn't know anything about what happened in the bedroom at the moment the stabbing took place, but she knew something about the quarrel which the accused had with the deceased, and that the deceased had asked her to intervene and to speak to the accused, but they never met to resolve this thing. The next witness was Nhlanhla Junior SABC, and he declared in English as follows. He says, I'm 27 years old, employed by the city of Johannesburg as a firefighter and an emergency technician. In the early hours of Monday, the 9th of March 2015, I was called to 78 3rd Street, Alexander. Upon my arrival, I found the deceased in the room inside the house. When I entered, there was also a lady in that room. She was giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. She was ventilating him, that is the deceased. I also checked the vital signs of the deceased. He had no pulse and he wasn't breathing. The deceased did not respond to the CPR. I also applied CPR until Mr. Manaka came. Mr. Manaka is our critical care assistant. He applied pads on the patient and declared the patient dead. We were about to leave the house when one of the police officers called us back and told us that one lady had made a laceration on both her wrists. I then bandaged the said lady on both wrists. She had laceration wounds on her wrists. She had a vest and a shorts, a BVD-like. That is the short which she had. There were no other injuries on her. She did not complain of any other injuries she might have sustained. It is quite clear that this witness, being an emergency technician and firefighter, came after the event in the bedroom. He found the deceased had already succumbed to his injuries, and he tried to give CPR as well, and it couldn't work out, and he was declared dead. The next witness was Nuko Brian Manaka, that is witness number 9, and he declared in English, he said, I'm 31 years old, employed by the City of Johannesburg Emergency Medical Services. I'm employed as a station commander and am an advanced life support paramedic. He's an advanced life support paramedic. On Monday morning, I reported at 78 3rd Avenue, Alexandra. Upon my arrival there were already other paramedics at the scene. I checked for signs of life on the deceased, and my finding was that the deceased had already passed away. While in the room of the deceased, I saw a lady who was crying and asked us to revive, and she asked us to revive the deceased. She had a white vest on and a boxer pants. It was a short-sleeved vest. As we were outside the house, about to leave, there was an officer who called us back, and we found the lady handcuffed at the back and sitting on the floor. I requested police officers to uncuff her so that we may dress the wounds. The police officers did take off the handcuffs, and my crew dressed the wound. I did not observe any blood on the vest of the lady accused. She didn't complain about any other wounds on her. She did not request any other medical attention. Now, this was the end of the evidence by the advanced life support paramedic, Mr. Manaka, and he also checked for signs of life on the deceased, and he found that he had already passed away. And thereafter, he was told that this lady had cut herself on her wrist, and they had her handcuffed at the back, and he ordered that they should uncuff her, and they dressed up the wounds, and that's all he said, which is after the event anyway. Witness number 10 for the state, Masego Tsele, declared under oath in English as follows. She said, I'm 32 years old. I knew the deceased in this matter. He was a friend of mine. I also know the accused through my friend. I know her by the name of Cindy, that is the accused. Both accused and deceased were dating. I also know Nkululeko Chauke. He's my boyfriend, and on Sunday in the evening of on the 8th of March 2015, I went to the sands with Nkululeko Chauke and the deceased and the accused. At the sands, we went to sit on the couches with long tables. Other people came and joined us. Kia, that is Kiabetu, came to our table. Kia is the deceased ex-girlfriend. Kia, the current boyfriend, and the deceased were talking. The current boyfriend of Kia is JR. They were just standing there and talking for about 5 minutes. Kia was dancing alone in front of the deceased and JR. The accused was seated with us by the table. The accused got irritated by the dancing and the talking of Kia. We went to the bar, me and the accused, because the accused felt like she wanted to drink more. We ordered 4 tequilas, and before that, accused had had cocktails. She had had 2 cocktails as well. That accused was irritated, I could see from her face, and she was no longer talking. Accused said she does not know why Kia was there, and she wanted her to go away. Kia was gone by the time we went to the table with the tequilas. For the rest of the evening, the accused was fine. She got over it. The deceased's mood was also fine. When we left the club, we were waiting at the edge of the bar. The door and the deceased and Nkuli had gone to the bathroom, so we were waiting for them to come back. When they came back, we were still seated there. The entrance of the club is less than a meter from where we were sitting. 2 gentlemen came to us, and that's when the deceased and Nkuli came out from the bathroom. The deceased and Nkuli told these 2 guys to leave us alone as they were with us. The 2 guys started arguing with the deceased and Nkuli Chauke. The 2 guys said they could talk to anyone in the club, but the deceased said they should leave us alone. The accused became irritated and started arguing with the deceased. Accused was saying to the deceased, guys can't talk to her, and yet Kia can come to talk to him. The deceased said the 2 guys were disrespectful. The argument between the accused and the deceased went on even in the parking lot outside. The deceased and accused continued arguing until Nkuli and I appeared. It was just a verbal argument between the deceased and the accused. Nkululeko went to fetch the motor vehicle. We then headed for McDonald's. On our way to McDonald's, there were further arguments between the deceased and the accused. She was saying she can pay her own money and she can pay her own bills. The deceased said if she can do that, then she can do so. Nkuli bought the McDonald's. After McDonald's, it got quite quiet in the vehicle. I was dropped off with Nkuli at my house. The deceased wasn't drunk, but the accused and I were not drunk. The deceased and accused had had some vodka and savannas. Nkuli had the same and wasn't drunk. The deceased and accused also smoked some dacha that evening while they were seated at the sands. It was one zol, one joint, and they shared it with other couples that were there. Until I was dropped off at my home at 1 a.m., I didn't see any physical altercation between the deceased and the accused. I didn't see accused try to use her phone to phone anybody. This was the end of her evidence, and it is quite clear that she was in the company of the accused and the deceased at the sands and even in the vehicle as they drove to McDonald's to buy some food. The last witness was Shadrach Manaka, and who declared in Habedi as follows. He said, I am a constable in the SAPS stationed in Alexander Police Station. I'm the investigating officer in this matter. I was assigned to take over this matter on the 9th of March 2015. I did interview the accused on that day. I also proceeded to take the normal warning statement from the accused. I did complete the pro forma part of the statement, that is Exhibit E, which was handed to the witness, and he identified it, and he said this is his handwriting on the document. At page 3, paragraph 7, he referred to her left arm and said she was injured on her abdomen. I noted that and asked her how she got these injuries. She explained to me, and I noted that the accused was referred to the Alexander Clinic, and I got a file therefrom on the 11th of March 2015. I went to Alexander Clinic and identified myself as a police officer to a lady called Letitia Vena, and she was able to assist me. She looked at her records and went to the safe to look for the accused file. Unfortunately, the accused file could not be located. And on the 4th of September 2015, I went there again, and the accused file could not be found. Nkululeko Chauke was a witness who was a witness in this matter, and I took his statement on the 1st of September 2015 after the affirmation I had taken from him. The date on the back of the statement is the 1st of September 2015. It is not the 7th of September, but it is the 1st of September. Now, this was the last witness of the state, and you heard what he testified about, that he got a statement from the accused, and the accused told him that she was injured on her abdomen as well, and he noted all that and asked her how she got those injuries, and she explained to him, and he noted all that in that statement. Now, there wasn't anything important which was yielded by cross-examination of this witness, and it's not necessary to go into details there because he did not witness what happened in the bedroom. Now, that brought to an end the case for the state, and the state thereupon closed its case after the 11 witnesses. It was now a chance for counsel for the defense to call witnesses for the defense. And the first witness for the defense was the accused, Sindisiwe Precious Manqele. And she declared in English as follows. She said, "I'm the accused in this matter. The deceased was known to me and going out with me since 2006. I left South Africa in 2009 for Ireland. I came back from time to time. I'm studying an honors degree in business studies at Griffith College in Dublin. I come home from time to time. I'm also a casual worker in a retail business. My father helps me to finance my studies. At the time of the incident, I was due to go back to Ireland. I arrived in South Africa on the 24th of December 2014. On my return, I still visited the deceased, besides my family. During January 2015, I had a tiff with the deceased, which he disclosed to his mother. After the tiff, we reconciled and went out together as lovers. In line with the reconciliation, we took a holiday to the coast. I also had a very close relationship with deceased daughter, Lesego, Habedi, from another woman. It was a good relationship I had with deceased daughter and her mother. I had a very close relationship with the deceased and we were on very good terms. Before the evening in question, I had occasion to go out with the deceased to clubs. The deceased was a popular person in that he belonged to a musical group called Squatter Camp. When I went out with him, he would meet with fans who appreciated his music. His association with his fans, male or female, did not perturb me. After our quarrel in January 2015, we reconciled and I have been staying at his place since February 2015. My home in South Africa is in Kempton Park. I used to go home for a day just to change clothes and sleep over, and deceased would come in the evening to collect me. I no longer have a mother. She passed away in 2008. My brother passed away in 2008 as well, and I no longer have any siblings. The 8th of March 2015 was a Sunday, and I was scheduled to go to Soweto to see deceased's mother because she had a birthday before that date. We didn't go to Soweto. Later, I was scheduled to go to Sandton at the Sands with the deceased because the deceased said one Lebo with a nickname Sugar Smacks had a party at the Sands, and the deceased had invited me to go with him. He left Alexander at approximately 4 o'clock and left 3rd Avenue to 16th Avenue, where his cousin had a haircut salon, and the deceased had a haircut there while I sat in the car. From there, we went to collect Mr. Chauke and his girlfriend Masego at Lombardy in Bramley. I had known Chauke before since 2006. He used to live in the same area I grew up in, that is in Kelvin. He was dating a friend of mine at the time, and I met the deceased through him. I had known Masego for a year or so, or two or so. Masego was not my friend, but a girlfriend to my friend Chauke. From Chauke's place, we used the deceased Caravel bus that is a Volkswagen Caravelle. As we were going to the deceased was driving and I was seated next to him on the front passenger seat, and Chauke and his girlfriend were seated at the back. The sliding door of the Caravelle, that is the Kumbi, was not working, so any passengers had to go into the Kumbi while I had shifted the front passenger seat to enable them to come in. We proceeded to Sandton. The venue is called the Sands. At the Sands, we went to the main entrance and it was full. We were all chatting with each other. We first sat at the lower end of the club, and the deceased and Chauke advised that we go and sit at the upper part of the club to avoid being stared at by people. Our vehicle had been parked perhaps 200 meters across the road through which we had to pass to enter the club's entrance. From the lower side of the club to the upper side of the club, we vied the bar, collected our drinks, and chatted with JR and Sugar Smacks, and then moved on to the upper part of the club. We sat down at the upper part of the club. It was the deceased, myself, Chauke, and Masejo. The drinks I had were Hunter's Dry, and the deceased had a Savannah. Chauke and had a Corona. I can't recall what Masejo had. We were sitting closer to other people. The deceased and Chauke met with other people who came to where we were seated. It was around 1730 to 1800. We had other further drinks. We then had a tequila shot, each one of us. A guy came to our table and the deceased asked him if he had some weed, that is marijuana, and he answered affirmatively. This guy wrapped a joint and the deceased and another guy had a puff. Masejo and I did not have a puff of the weed. I do smoke weed privately and not publicly. And that is what accused is saying. I do smoke weed privately and not publicly. The deceased had other joints with the same guy later that evening. The venue is an open area. While they puffed this joint, I was chilling with Masejo. Other than weed, I do also smoke cigarettes. I did smoke cigarettes that night. After some time, we moved to a covered area and JR brought a full bottle of vodka to our table. All four of us drank from the bottle of vodka. I did not pay attention if any other person also drank from the vodka bottle. A combination of males and females did come to the area where we were drinking vodka. I know JR, but not his girlfriend. I know Peter and his girlfriend. Peter was the manager of squatter camp. Peter's girlfriend came to our table. She then spoke to the deceased. I could hear what she was saying to the deceased, but I did not pay attention. By that time, the deceased was next to me. There was nothing in the contact of Peter's girlfriend which showed that she was flirting with the deceased. She greeted everybody, and there was nothing in her behavior which caused me to be perturbed. I never sulked or got irritated during her presence. I did not know the person called Kia. I did not know the person called Kiabetsu. I never heard of a Kia involved with the deceased. I didn't see a lady dancing and beating a bum. I did not see the deceased dance with a lady because I was not paying attention. There was music playing, and I asked, and I myself went to dance. There were other people who also danced. The conduct of the lady who was with JR never irritated me. She was talking to the guys. I did not care what JR's lady was doing. I do not recall at what time Squatter Camp started performing. The deceased took part in the performance by Squatter Camp. I don't know if deceased was invited to perform or not. While Squatter Camp was performing, I was dancing in front of the stage. I was dancing with Masego in support of the deceased. After the performance, I did meet with the deceased for a short while in the covered area. He was talking to other people, and we were all having a sip from our glasses. His second puff of a joint was before the performance. JR gave us the vodka bottle. Chauke and myself bought liquor for the deceased. I was aware of the fact that the deceased was going through a rough financial patch. I was aware of the fact that the deceased was going through a rough financial patch. I was not aware that the deceased had loaned some money from Chauke. Two guys were speaking to us, saying we looked good and nice. I just said thank you for the compliments. Both deceased and Chauke were mingling with the crowd while the two guys spoke to us. We were standing close to the door next to the exit. It was still a bit early, and we were not planning to go yet. These compliments did not offend me. I was friendly, and the deceased was plus minus 8 meters away. The deceased could not have heard that. The deceased and Chauke came over to us. The deceased told these guys why they are speaking to us. In Zulu, then he said, "Cindy, let's go." And those guys told deceased and Chauke to chill. That is the one who was talking to me, who said so. When deceased said, "Let's go, Cindy," I didn't comply because he had said it is an unfriendly man. He had said it in an unfriendly manner, and we were still chilling. I did not expect it from the deceased, but I was not surprised by it. The deceased said to the guy, "Uyahlanya, ungihlomele ukhuluma nomedi wam. You are crazy. You mean I should wait for you?" Talking to my girlfriend in English. The deceased grabbed me by my wrist and said we should go before I make him crazy. I said to the deceased, "Who the fucking do you think you are, grabbing me around?" The deceased said, "I'm being disrespectful speaking to him like that in the presence of his colleagues." He said, "Why do I speak to men in front of his friends and colleagues?" The deceased said, "I disrespect him because of his financial situation." And I said that I'll speak to anybody I want to speak to, and I don't have to be pulled around. This is how the altercation played itself out as we were walking with the deceased. We left. Before the two guys left, they said something I didn't pay attention to. As we were walking to the caravel, the deceased said to me, "I want to fish for a rich man because of his financial situation." I responded that if I wanted a rich man, I wouldn't be dating him. By that time, I wasn't paying attention to where Chauke and Masego were. The deceased said, "I'm a gold digger." And I said, "I'm not one because there is no gold to be dug. There is no gold to dig." There was a moment during the argument between the deceased and myself when we sat on the pavement. He was smoking and I was phoning my taxi driver with my cell phone. He said, "I'm disrespectful. I spoke with Kumbulani and Ngube. Kumbulani, my taxi driver, who said he would come and fetch me. I was sitting and he was standing having a cigarette. Kumbu rang me for the second time to confirm my whereabouts. I had rung him for the first time. The deceased was jealous that I was talking to other guys in his presence and the presence of his friends. While I was speaking to Kumbu, the deceased snatched my cell phone from me while I was talking to Kumbu where the sense is. While I was telling Kumbu where the sense is, I stood up to confront him, that is the deceased, because I wanted my phone back. That is when I strained my leg. I wasn't attacking him, but I was going for my phone. He wouldn't give the phone back. He said if he gives me the phone, I'm going to go with Kumbu, and when he goes home, I would come back to the sense. The phone was ringing, and I assumed it was Kumbu who rang. The deceased said we should go to the car, and he'll give me my phone back. When we got to the car, he did give the phone back. I sat on the back seat. I was reluctant to go to the car, but I wanted my phone. Both of us were tipsy. I was not staggering. My speech was not slurred. He was saying, "Kabanga Joe, this Jude wants me to wait for him while he speaks to my girlfriend. He said he has a good mind to go and beat him up." Chauke then said the deceased must leave this matter if he doesn't want to appear in the Daily Sun the next day. The verbalization between the deceased and myself went on. I had found that Kumbulani had tried to ring me thrice. He made it to McDonald's. We made it to McDonald's. By that time, the exchange between the deceased and I had stopped. It was all quiet. At McDonald's, Chauke bought food for me, Masego, and himself. The deceased didn't want any food. When we left the Sens, it was Chauke who drove the vehicle. From McDonald's to Bramley in Lombardy, Chauke was driving while I was still seated at the back. The deceased was seated on the front passenger seat. At Lombardy, the deceased, Chauke and Masego were dropped off, and the deceased drove the vehicle while I was seated at the back. We got to Alexander. At 78 3rd Avenue, I got out first behind the front passenger seat before we reached his home. Before we reached his home, the deceased said, "I'm disrespectful. How can I speak like that before his friends? We were having a quarrel. Both of us were having a quarrel, both of us, without the deceased being the aggressor. When he attacked me verbally, I talked back. During our trip to his home, I received a call from Kumbulani telling me he was outside the sands. I told him, I'm sorry, I've left. I'm no longer at the sands. I had made a couple of phone calls to Mfundo and Tembela without success because they ring and go to voicemail. Sometimes it is cancelled, the call, because of network error. It was an iPhone 6. The phone is then to the witness. The phone was then given to the witness to illustrate the spring shots she took. That is in Exhibit G. Exhibit G is a summary of all the calls she made, she said. Witness also explained how she took screenshots of the information she is presenting to the court. On the 17th of March 2015, that is when I was released from custody after bail had been granted. At deceased home, the vehicle pulled into the yard. By this time, I was no longer listened to by deceased as a result of continued bickering. I left deceased behind when I got down, having the McDonald's parcel. I left the McDonald's packet on the coffee table in the lounge because I did not want to eat it. Photo 5 of Exhibit C was referred to, and this is the coffee table, and it's not shown in the photo of photo 5. But after I left the McDonald's packet, I rushed to the bedroom because I wanted to get away from the deceased with whom I was upset. I then locked the bedroom door, which is always open. It is locked from inside. I wanted to stay in the room alone. Deceased could sleep on the couch or his mother's bedroom. I took off my leggings, that is my tight pants, my shoes, and my brazier. The top, maroon in color, was tight. I have a tattoo on my back. I kept my panty on. I went to bed after switching off the light. I was under the duvet attempting to call Tembela and to tell Mfundo to come and pick me up. It took a couple of minutes for the deceased to come to the room. He knocked and I kept quiet. He continued to knock and I continued keeping quiet. He said, Cindy, open this door. He started to be louder, saying, open this fucking door. Don't make me mad. Music was playing outside in a mellow tone. He kept saying, I must open the door. He went to the window and said, open this fucking door. I want to talk to you. And he said it in an aggressive tone. He then knocked at the window. He didn't knock softly at the window for a while. He then stopped. Someone fidgeted with the door handle, and I got up, switched on the light, and headed for the door and opened the door. It took a couple of minutes. I opened the door so that we can get this argument over with. As I unlocked the door, the deceased pushed the door with force. The door hit me as I barged in, and I fell on my butt onto the floor. I saw him when he came inside the room. He had a knife, the same knife that was displayed in court. He closed the door behind him and unlocked it and locked it. I got up and he walked towards the bed. I also went to sit on the bed, towards the headboard, leaning against it with my knee towards my chest. I just wanted him to talk, and I did not want to take part in the conversation. He was talking, he was walking up and down the room while speaking. The first thing he said was, "You don't lock me out of my own fucking bedroom." I replied by saying, "Whatever. It doesn't really matter." He continued to say I have disrespected him the whole night, and what makes me think I can disrespect him like that? Do I think I'm too pretty or what? Or is it the situation that he is in right now that I disrespect him? This was an allusion to his financial situation. I was ignoring him all the time. He was gesturing with his hand while pacing up and down. The knife was still in his hand. He then said, "I'm a bitch and I want to look for men. I want to look for men." My reaction was to yell back at him. I told him he's crazy. He can't call me bitch because I was talking to somebody who was paying me a compliment. By that I was closer to him. By that time I was closer to him. He was sitting on the frame of a bed in photos 7 and 8. He was facing me. He had the headboard was still behind me. He was sitting on the longer side of the frame. He was looking in the direction of the headboard towards the middle of the frame of the bed, as marked with O. He was sitting on my right hand side. The heated exchange carried on. He, amongst other things, said, "Chicks like you don't date guys like me." I then said to him, "I've been dating you since I was 17, and you tell me chicks like me don't date guys like you." He grabbed me by the jaw. It wasn't gentle. He held me with his right hand, and the knife was on his left hand. By pressing me like that on the jaw, it made my jaw sore. He said, "Umuhle ne? You are beautiful, ne?" I said to him, "Leave my fucking face. You are hurting me. What's wrong with you?" He spat in my face and came around and unlocked me with his left hand around my neck. I was still on the bed at that stage. He yelled into my ear that I'm a bitch, I'm a whore, and at that stage I was trying to get his hand off my neck with both my hands. He was still having the knife in his left hand with which he unlocked me. I was yelling back. He then said, "Get out of my fucking house." Then the witness indicated where the deceased had put the knife on the table, and she marked that with photo. She marked photo 7 with an X, which was circled. On page 8, the accused also marked with an X, which is circled. On the couch on which I used to put my clothes, this is where the deceased and I shoved my clothes into a bag which contains a red object on photo 8, while telling me to get out of his fucking house. I said to him, "If I leave now, I'm not coming back." I got up the bed and went to where he was shoving my clothes. I had another bag, so I grabbed it and started putting my other clothes in it. As I did that, he came and grabbed me, threw me on the bed and told me, "Ngicabanga ukuthi uyaphi? Where do you think you are going?" He said this in an aggressive tone. I then responded by saying, "I wanted to go home from Sandton. You didn't let me go home. It is now 1 a.m. and we are in Alexander, and you are telling me to go home, and I don't know how I'm going to go home." He then said he doesn't care how I go home because I'm a fucking bitch. I said, "I don't know what a fuck has got over you." He then pushed me back on the bed. It was a hard, aggressive push, and I landed on my back. It was a hard landing. He then said, "What a fuck had I gone to do in Cape Town?" And I said, "What I had gone to do in Cape Town has nothing to do with you." He then said, "I had gone to prostitute in Cape Town." We were both angry and upset at the time. I then said to him, "If you think I had gone beaching in Cape Town, it is fine." He asked who had I gone with in Cape Town. That is why I didn't talk to him, because I was with a man. I was trying to get up from the bed and he kept on pushing me. He just pushed me to restrain me. He pushed me a couple of times with both his hands. I told him that if I went to Cape Town, I don't see how it is his business, because I took myself there. He said that I went to prostitute in Cape Town and that I was using that as an excuse to him by not talking to him. I had found the message he sent to his other girlfriends on his cell phone, which I used during the early in January. I told him I want to break up with him now. He picked up the knife which was on the table, that is the photos 8 marked with an X, and was coming towards me. He put the knife on the bed on his right hand side and got hold of both my hands, pressed them down on the bed while standing in front of me. He used both hands and kept my hands together with his left hand and pressed my hands down onto the bed. He put the knife on the bed beside him and his right hand on his right hand side. He said, I'm going to tell him who I'm fucking. I said to him, you're hurting me, just get off me. He then took the knife with his right hand. I was freaking out. I was scared. He spit on my face again and rubbed the spit on my face with his hand that he had the knife with. He stabbed me on the stomach, and I was trying to get his hand, which had the knife, with both my hands. The only thing I was focusing on was to get the knife from his hands. I was scared and terrified. I managed to get the knife from his hand. I was scared. I freaked out. I wanted to get out because I thought he was going to kill me. After I got the knife, I pushed him off and I got up going to the door, and he pulled me back. At that stage, the knife was in my right hand. I hit a wall. I was facing him and he was facing the direction of the door. He was shaking me by my hands on my biceps. I pushed him back and stabbed him with one movement. After that, he screamed that I had just stabbed him. He put his hand on the chest and staggered towards his right hand and fell down. As he was staggering, I tried to hold him so that he mustn't fall. He didn't drop and fall. He succumbed and went down. He had been angry and shaking, his eyes popping out. I was wearing a panty when the incident happened, and I put on his boxer short so as to go outside for help. I then grabbed my cell phone and called the emergency number. That was when I decided, that was when I dialed the wrong number, 122. I managed to open the door while screaming to the guys to come and help me. I was screaming and told him to stop, that he's hurting me. When I got out of the room, I found help outside. I called the helpline 112 because I wanted them to come and help the deceased. The emergency officials came around and the deceased and declared the deceased dead in my presence. I participated in an attempt to bring him to life. I didn't want him to die. I did not drop the knife before pushing and stabbing because I was scared that he will get the knife and stab me again as he had done so. At the time of the incident, my weight was 64 kilograms. After he had passed away, I slashed my wrist because I was devastated and shocked about what had happened. I couldn't imagine life without the deceased Nkuli. I wanted to die. That is why I stabbed my left wrist. I slashed my left wrist. I used the bottle which was lying on the floor in the bedroom. I was later taken to the police station. The wrist was bandaged. At 7 a.m., I was taken from the police station to the clinic in Alexander. At the clinic, I was attended to by a doctor. A file was opened and I was stitched on my body and on the wrist. One wound was stitched. There were other wounds on the belly which were bandaged. I still have visible scars on my tummy as I speak today. I am prepared to show the court the sad scars on my tummy. I was handcuffed when I went to the clinic, but I took my cell phone with me. I was searched before I was taken to the cells. I appeared in court and the case was remanded while I was at Johannesburg prison. I did receive medical attention whilst at Sun City on the instructions of my attorney. The said doctor made a record of my examination. Masakane is the clinic in Alexander, and I was always under police guard. When taken there, I was always under police guard when taken there. I therefore do not know what eventually happened to my file after treatment. When I applied for bail, the medical report of the doctor was part of the court papers. The doctor's report has details of my injuries. The doctor's report is part of Exhibit F. Right? The case was postponed to another day, and on that day, the witness proceeded as follows. She said, I am prepared to show anyone the scars on my tummy. A picture of my tummy is handed up to court, and this picture depicts my injuries on my tummy. Only one of the wounds was stitched. I bled from the wounds. I don't know how much blood I lost. The picture is handed in as Exhibit H. I did not sustain any further injuries. The bang bang sound or kudu kudu sound could have been caused by being pushed on stuff and falling. When I saw the deceased barging into the room with a knife in the hand, I presumed that he had been tampering with the lock of the door therewith. It had been a fidgeting noise. I heard one of the occupants of the house knock at the door. I heard the noise when we were in the bed, or on the bed, and he was on top of me. After I got into the bedroom, I never left it. I was always in it. I didn't go to the kitchen. I do recognize the knife as one of the household ones which was kept in the kitchen. I recall the evidence by the witness that when I came out of the room, I said something like, I stabbed him by mistake, quote unquote. I agree that that is what I said. By that I meant that I stabbed him, or when I stabbed him, I did not want to kill him. I did not want him lifeless on the floor. When the investigations officer spoke to me, I said, I want to have a lawyer before making any statement. I don't know the procedures of giving statements, so I thought I was obliged to answer certain questions he put to me. I told him I sustained an upper injury while I was with the deceased in Sandton. The injury was on my leg. I had bruised my leg and was limping. I also told him I had an injury on my cut wrist. I told him that I also had an injury on my tummy and that it had already been stitched at Masa, and I wanted to lift up my top, and he said I shouldn't. Now, this was the end of the evidence by the accused. I'm quite sure, to those of you who are noting it, it rings a bell as we go on. This witness was subjected to extensive cross-examination by Mr. Skirter, counsel for the state. And this cross-examination is important, but I won't deal with it now. I'll only deal with certain parts of it at a later stage when I get to my analysis of the evidence. It was fitting and proper that counsel for the state, Mr. Skirter, subject this witness to intensive cross-examination, because she is the only person who knows what happened in that room. No other person witnessed what happened at the moment the stabbing took place. I will revert to the cross-examination. The next witness was Mr. Kumbulani Ngube, and he declared in English as follows: I'm in the taxi business, metered taxi business. I own a taxi. I've been in the business for 4 years. I operated within Gauteng from Sandton. If someone needs my services, he's got to phone me on my cell phone, and I have some regular customers. And on the 8th of March 2015 to 9th of March 2015 in the evening, I was on duty. I know the accused before court for about a year, since mid last year, that is 2014. I know her as one of my regular customers. I have received calls from her between 8th and 9th of March 2015. I have received the call from her after midnight, that is on the 9th of March 2015. The call was about me having to go and pick her up. I received the call on my mobile phone to pick her up at a nightclub. Outside the nightclub, she was not picking up her phone. I called her 3 times without success. At the time, she finally answered and said she had already left. Between the 3rd call and the 4th one, it was a period of about 30 minutes. It sounded like she wanted to be picked up immediately, because she asked me how long it would take to reach the Sands nightclub. Her speech was clear. On previous occasions, she has called me to pick her up. He was asked, has she ever made you to wait in vain? And he answered, no. He said, I would not understand the way she felt, because I was also irritated for waiting for her too long. I had her name and address in Kempton Park, so I knew to whom I was talking, and I assumed she wanted to be taken to Kempton Park. This was the end of his evidence. You see The evidence is that of a taxi driver talking about the calls he made and the one he received from the accused. The next witness was Warrant Officer Maripa Paul Monene. And he declared in Habedi as follows. He said, I'm a member of the SAPS with the rank of Warrant Officer at Alexander Police Station. On the 9th of March 2015, I was on duty in the morning. In the morning shift as a commander of cells at the police station. I was present when the accused was brought for detention. In the cells, when she was brought for detention in the cells, she was brought at 6:05. I noticed that she was bleeding on the left hand. I asked one of my colleagues to take accused to the Alexander Clinic. The 6:05 is a.m. in the morning. When she entered my office, she was not handcuffed. After Constable Mabukela brought her to me, she was taken to the clinic. I was present when she was brought back from the clinic. I did not notice any other injuries on her. When she was taken to the clinic, I did not ask her if she had any other injuries except on the wrist. She did not come back with any files from the clinic. When a patient is taken to the clinic or hospital for treatment, the police have nothing to do with her medical file. It cannot happen that the accused is locked up in the cells without being searched. The accused was searched. I cannot recall how the accused was dressed on the said day. Now, this was very brief, as you can hear. It was some member of the SAPS who locked her in the cells. Then, this is what is normally referred to as chain evidence in law. Then the next witness was Constable Godfrey Murobedzi, and he declared in English as follows. He said, I'm a constable in the SAPS stationed at Alexander. I attended the crime scene of this matter. When I arrived at the scene, the deceased was already covered. I'm not sure whether he was covered with a blanket or a duvet. I found the accused in the room. She was sitting on the floor on the side of the deceased. She was crying. It was before she had an injury on her wrists. She was wearing a brown top vest and a BVD short. I was present when she was taken away. I'm the one who suggested that she must put on something, as she did not seem she did not seem decent. I'm not sure what she put on top, but she wore a pair of jeans. I'm not good in colors. The colors I know are white, black, and red. The top vest she had on was definitely not white. It was brown. The color of this chair is maroon, pointing at the chair in court. And he said it is maroon. That was what he testified on. So, again, the cross-examination of this witness could not yield anything significant because he really didn't say much. He was merely talking about the injuries which he saw on the accused and what she had on. And he tried to describe that, but he considered that he's not good at colors. Now, that was the fourth witness for the defense. The fifth witness was Dr. Lukosi. Dr. Sipho Michael Lukosi. He was the penultimate witness for the defense. That is witness number 5 for the defense. And he declared in English as follows, that I'm a medical practitioner by profession. I have postgraduate qualifications in forensic clinical medicine. I got an MBCHB at Wits in 2000 and a diploma in forensic clinical medicine, College of Medicine in South Africa in 2009, and a diploma in medical jurisprudence, Apothecary Society of London in 2011, and I have the membership of the Faculty of Forensic and Legal Medicine of the Royal College of Physicians in London 2009. I have a bioethics and philosophy master's degree of Stellenbosch University, which I got in 2014, and I also have a postgraduate degree in applied ethics from Wits, which I got in 2008. So he's a highly qualified man. Then he was asked what bioethics concerns, and he said bioethics concerns clinical medicine, and that has a broad application on the healthcare within the forensic medicine. I am employed by the Gauteng Clinical Forensic Medicine as a medical practitioner. My day-to-day duties entail examination of victims of crime, sexual and general assaults, interpretation of injuries, as well as dealing with suspects and detainees. Quite often we are called upon to testify in court because we compile J88 and medico-legal reports. I do recognize the accused before court. At some stage I was called upon by her defense lawyers to examine her. I drew a report and notes about the examination I conducted on the accused. I brought along the specific notes on the examination, that is Exhibit F, which was given to him to identify, and the witness referred to Annexure A, which was compiled by him on the 14th of March 2015, and the first consultation was on the 11th of March, he said, 2015, and the second one was on the 14th of March 2015. The first was conducted at the Sun City prison where the accused was kept as a detainee. He said, my credentials were checked for this purpose. On the 11th of March 2015, I did make observations and I jotted them down as my notes. The second examination was necessitated by the prudent practice which is based on the evolution of injuries as they heal or resolve. Annexure A is composed of both observations, and this summary is consistent with my notes, he said. The history is contained in the remarks on the part of the history on page 2. The accused was the source of this history. The head and neck of the accused showed some tenderness, and which must have been caused by some blunt trauma, he said. Then he said there were fingertip bruises which were caused by grabbing, and there were wounds on the abdomen, and these are not consistent with self-infliction, as he said. He went on to talk about a right-handed person cannot inflict an abdominal wound, and it is difficult to get the tailing of the wounds, as he said. From the history, I gathered that the accused is right-handed and she did receive medical treatment. The injuries on accused were not meant to mislead me as a medical examiner, as he said. And in his conclusion, he said, this is my conclusion apart from the summary which is given on page 1 of the medical report. Now that was end of his evidence. So he examined the accused. And of importance here, he says, the wounds she had on her abdomen were not self-inflicted by her, and they don't show any signs of the right-handed accused having inflicted them on herself. The last witness, before we go, it's already 1 o'clock, was Letitia Vena, and she testified about the medical report of the accused, which cannot be obtained from anywhere. And she said, she declared in English as follows. She said, the witness was, this witness, Letitia Vena, was originally lined up as a state witness, but later on the state decided not to call her, and she was taken over by the defense. She said, I'm officially employed as an administration officer at the Alexander Health Community Center, which is called Masa Clinic, since the year 2000 to date. I am an administration officer in the records office. I have to see to it that all records are kept and filed. I know the investigation officer in this matter. He approached me to assist him with a record of a patient known as Sindisiwe Precious Manele. Unfortunately, we could not find that record. I concluded, I conducted a manual search of this file. We also conducted computer records, and there was nothing recorded in the computer. It never happens that a patient can be stitched without opening a file for such patient. So she can't get the record. It has disappeared Up to this day, it has not been found. And thereafter, the state, the defense, rather, closed its case. So now we have a situation where the state has closed its case and the defense has called all its witnesses and also closed its case. And from there, we will take it to the next heading, that is the heading number 11, which is the analysis of the evidence which was heard by the court and the findings of the court, which is an important aspect of my judgment. And we'll take it from there after lunch. It's already 1:05, and the court is going to adjourn for lunch. We'll come back and proceed at 2:00. Court adjourns.